Hello and welcome to week 10, a pivotal week, the point at which I've decided we can put together the framework, the Fastplan framework of all things that we've learned to this point. At this stage at week 10, I think now, with the discussion we had in week 9 about the role of protein and glucagon in a low-carb environment, we've now got the full picture, the full tool set to set us up for success in the remaining 6 weeks of the program. So I just want to talk through those key points and kind of reaffirm everything we've learned. And for those in-person people doing Fastplan, we've got a laminated sheet that you can put on the front of your fridge. And for everybody else doing Fastplan to go, you've got access to this document online in the member access area. Also, before I get into the Fastplan framework, a pivotal document, I want to remind you that this week I've done a workout suggestion sheet that is on the member access area that talks to you about how you might decide to exercise in this week, this next 7 days. Some suggestions, some thoughts and ideas. Rather than doing another video, I thought, okay, over to you this week. You've got access to lots and lots of different things. You've got access to me. You've got access to the gym and classes if you're doing it in person. And you have knowledge about the things that you like to do in terms of exercise that you can take forward over the next 7 days. So that document's in the member access area. Have a read. Any questions, as always, get back to me and I'll answer those questions to help you with your exercise requirements. Right, the Fastplan framework. Now then, I've talked through what ended up being 12 bullet points here and then some key mantras at the bottom to reaffirm, crystallize and shape the behaviors that we would expect to see of somebody, me included, taking the Fastplan ethos and way of life forward. So let's go through them one by one. Very simple. I'll elaborate where necessary. So firstly, we know that we should, and forgive me for looking at my notes here rather than looking you in the eye, maybe have access to these notes, print them off, or have access somewhere on your phone or computer or iPad so you can read through them as I'm talking through them, just so you can understand them in the best way possible, giving them full context. So the first one, fast for a minimum of 16 hours, aim for 18 to 20. That is one of the that's why it's top of the list, one of the absolute key fundamentals of Fastplan. We must fast for a minimum of 16 hours and aim for an 18 to 20 hour fast. After 18 hours, remember, the gluconeogenesis benefit comes forward and you've got access to the notes that talk to you and remind you about the nature of gluconeogenesis and why that's important. But really all you need to remember is 16 as a minimum, aspire to 18 and 20 for best results. Then break your fast with fat, protein or fat and protein together. Never mix fat and carbs or protein and carbs when breaking your fast. Okay, so up to now I've said fat above all things to break your fast, but now I'm confident that you are in a way of thinking, way of living, way of eating that is truly low carb, and we'll talk about what low carb is, literally speaking, in a moment. But now protein is your friend. In a low carb environment, protein generates glucagon, and glucagon is a fat-burning fasting hormone. Okay, so you can break your fast with protein, and you can have more kind of pure proteins than I was suggesting first off if you're in a low-carb environment. So firstly, I was of the opinion, because you weren't quite there yet, you are now, that you shouldn't be having proteins that are far too lean, because in the presence of carbohydrate, they become effectively the same in their insulin effect. So protein compounds the carbohydrate effect. So you can now break your fast with protein and fat, or protein and fat, but never break your fast with protein and carbs or fat and carbs. Okay, wonderful. Okay, reduce carbohydrate is the third one. So that's been a key thread throughout. This isn't a ketogenic plan. It's a plan that relies on us being able to reliably and consistently reduce carbohydrate for the best effect. Okay, because we're effectively nullifying the effect of insulin. We're trying to remove insulin from the equation, so we reduce carbohydrate. And we've now said that low carb means around 50 grams or less. Brilliant. Offset fiber content against carbohydrate. We've talked about that a lot. Okay, in your macros, you can offset the grams of carbohydrate against the grams of fiber, or again, the other way around, offset the grams of fibre against the grams of carbohydrate. So if something has 30 grams of carbs, 25 grams of fibre, the net effect of carbohydrate is 5 grams. You know that well now. Things that don't have labels on, that don't come in packets, natural foods, fruit and vegetables, you can do your research as to the amount of carbohydrate and fibre is in those food products. Okay, exercise daily toward the end of your fasted window. Massively important. You get the biggest fat burn effect at the end of your fasted window. That's when you're accessing fat stores the most efficiently. Try and do that. You must try and do that, and to get the best effect and to change your lifestyle full stop in terms of being a healthy person with healthy body, healthy mind, healthy eating habits. Try and train daily. Apple cider vinegar, add it to your habits. We've talked about apple cider vinegar. A tablespoon or 2 in a glass or tumbler of ice cold water on waking with your meal and before you go to bed. Don't cut calories, we've said. Fast and eat. It's about maintaining basal metabolic rate. Remember, we must maintain our basal metabolic rate. So we're not about cutting calories. Definitely not. In your eating window, whether it's an 8-hour window or a 4-hour window, you should eat and eat well according to the number or split of macros that we've discussed. So with a priority on fat and protein, reducing carbohydrate, eat well. Maintain your basal metabolic rate for long-term effect. Okay. Dietary fat is good, even saturated fat. So we've been through that in detail. So any concern that people had about saturated fatty acids in your bloodstream, they're not put there by dietary fat. They're not even put there by dietary saturated fat. They're put there by excess carbohydrate through the process of de novo lipogenesis, a process through the liver that is done when we overconsume carbohydrate, which we won't be doing, remember. Excess carbohydrate is the problem. Like I've just said, de novo lipogenesis deposits saturated fatty acids into the bloodstream. Protein is powerful, but only in a low-carb environment, as I've discussed. So glucagon produced when consuming protein promotes fat loss. Protein compounds the insulin effect of carbohydrate. Okay. If your diet is low carbohydrate, brackets less than 50 grams, ensure you consume 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So there's another number we can hang our hats on. Okay, so if you're looking for figures, we now know we no more than 50 grams of carbohydrate in a 24-hour period and 1 to 2 grams per kilo of body weight of protein. Okay, very, very simple. You can start to build a plan now and be very good at this and an expert at this. It's good stuff. And finally, all other food content / calories should come from fat. So we've said fill with fat. So start to prioritize protein alongside your fat and then reduce your carbohydrate and fill the rest of your dietary need, your hunger, with fat. Then we move on to the key mantras. So I've tried to drill this down again, simplify it again. So if you have a quick glance and think what's really important, well, 1, 2, 3, I've gone for 4 things here on this sheet that you can go to as the absolute drill down key points. Minimum 16-hour fast, aim for 18 to 20. Fast, train, eat in that order. Train at the end of your fast. So fast, then train, then eat in that order. Less than 50 grams of carbs, 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Fill the rest of your diet with fat. And protein is powerful, but only in a low carb environment. So there is a construction, there is the framework within which now you can work. You have all of the information, you have all of the tools, you have your Fastplan toolkit. Okay, for the remaining 6 to 7 weeks of the plan, now we're going to talk about motivation, making sure we stick to it and get the best benefit. At this stage, 10 weeks in, a person has lost over 2 stone. Lots and lots of people have lost over a stone, many approaching that figure, and other people are losing weight at different rates. But the point is, it's about application, motivation, and doing. Now we have the information, we need to use it in the best way possible. Having said all this, you have nothing to prove to me or anybody else. This whole program is about you. So your aspirations, your desires, your wants and needs in terms of fat loss and body composition. It's completely up to you. I've said before, I've used the analogy, you've now learned to drive the car. You know how to drive your body in terms of fat loss. You know how now. How you drive that vehicle is completely and totally up to you. If we're approaching a festive period or anything like that, and you decide that actually I want to enjoy my food with my family and consciously decide that I'm going to change my habits and put on weight for a period of time in the knowledge that I know how to take it off, that's your prerogative. It's not up to anybody else how you live your life or eat your food. The point is, I wanted to bring you the skills, bring you the information, bring you the knowledge, and give you everything that you require to be able to succeed. But you only need to succeed for yourself, not for anybody else, certainly not for me. I'm very, very proud of what the group and all Fastplan customers are doing right now. Really, really proud of it. And I'm confident in the knowledge that everyone knows that there's no pressure. Neither should there ever be any pressure. The only pressure comes from yourself in the context of your life and your experiences and the things that you're going through. Life isn't in a straight line. It goes like that. God only knows. All right, there's all kinds of stresses and strains, but you now have this information, this framework to go to whenever you decide that you want to make a change. You now have this. So for this remaining 6 or 7 weeks, I'm going to do my absolute best to motivate you and to restoke that fire if it needs that at this stage, to make sure that if you're plateauing, we can go again, okay? And if you're succeeding, you can continue to succeed. All right? So thank you so much for getting us to this point, because I think you've been brilliant. And I'll speak to you in week 11.